As communities across the United States gather to mark 40 years since the federal government officially began observing Martin Luther King Jr. Day, this year's holiday arrives at a moment of heightened political tension, prompting what many organizers describe as a renewed effort to reclaim, reflect on, and rally around Dr. King's legacy. Across the country, Monday's observances include parades, panel discussions, service projects, and worship services honoring the life and work of Martin Luther King Jr., the slain civil rights icon whose leadership helped reshape American democracy. But for many participants, this year's commemorations feel less celebratory and more urgent, shaped by a political climate they see as challenging the progress King fought to achieve. The 2026 observance also carries symbolic weight. It marks the first full year since Donald Trump's second inauguration coincided with King Day, a moment that underscored the sharp divide in how Americans interpret the civil rights movement's legacy. Since returning to office, President Trump has pursued policies that critics argue undermine diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, while supporters say they restore fairness and merit. In the past year, Trump signed executive orders titled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity and Ending Radical and Wasteful Government DEI Programs and Preferencing. Those directives accelerated the rollback of civil rights and racial justice programs across federal agencies and influenced similar changes in corporations and universities nationwide. The administration has also drawn criticism for actions that many King admirers say disproportionately impact communities of color. Federal law enforcement operations have targeted several predominantly black-led cities, and immigration enforcement has intensified in areas with large immigrant populations. Supporters of the administration argue these measures are about public safety and rule of law, while opponents view them as part of a broader pattern of racialized governance. Concerns escalated further this month following the fatal shooting of an unarmed woman in Minneapolis by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents who were in the area targeting members of the city's Somali immigrant community. The incident, combined with President Trump's recent comments describing civil rights protections as discrimination against white Americans, has deepened fears among some communities that the nation is moving backward from the ideals King championed. In a recent interview with the New York Times, Trump said he believes the civil rights movement and the reforms it ushered in were harmful to white Americans, who he said were very badly treated. Civil rights advocates and historians strongly dispute that view, arguing that the movement expanded democracy and opportunity not only for black Americans, but also for women, immigrants, and LGBTQ+ communities. Maryland Governor Wes Moore, the state's first black governor and only the nation's third elected black governor, said the civil rights movement remains central to the country's identity. In an interview with the Associated Press, Moore emphasized that the movement reflected America's willingness to confront its imperfections while striving toward a more just society. Civil rights leaders say the current political moment makes King's message more relevant than ever. Maya Wiley, president and CEO of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, warned that the administration's priorities suggest an effort to erase key aspects of the movement's legacy. She said issues King championed, from healthcare access and affordable housing to fair wages and labor rights, remain unresolved and are increasingly at risk. Wiley added that dismantling long-standing government norms threatens the very idea of what King called the beloved community, a society rooted in justice, mutual care, and shared responsibility. The White House did not respond to a request for comment on those criticisms. Not all reactions to the holiday reflect opposition to the administration. Some conservative groups argue that Martin Luther King Jr. Day should focus narrowly on King's personal words and philosophy, particularly his vision of a colorblind society. The Conservative Heritage Foundation has encouraged Americans to mark the day by visiting the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park in Atlanta, or rereading King's famous speech, "I Have a Dream," delivered at the Lincoln Memorial in 1963. Brenda Hafera, a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, argues that using the holiday to promote concepts like anti-racism or critical race theory contradicts King's message.
She says King's call to judge individuals by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin should remain the central theme of the holiday. Black advocacy groups counter that interpretation, saying it strips King's work of its broader context and political urgency. The NAACP, the nation's oldest civil rights organization, says this year's observances must take a different tone due to heightened fears in communities of color and immigrant communities. Wisdom Cole, the NAACP's Senior National Director of Advocacy, said people exercising their constitutional rights to protest are increasingly facing violence and aggressive policing. He argued that safety concerns now shape how and where communities can gather to honor King's legacy. The Movement for Black Lives, a network affiliated with the Black Lives Matter movement, has organized events under the banner Reclaim MLK Day of Action. Demonstrations are planned in cities including Atlanta, Chicago, and Oakland, with organizers framing the holiday as a call to collective resistance. Devonte Jackson, a national organizing director for the coalition, said reclaiming King's radical legacy is essential in what he described as a fight against authoritarianism. He said King's commitment to freedom demands action, not just remembrance. Tensions surrounding the holiday have also affected institutions. For the first time in its 60-year history, Indiana University Indianapolis canceled its annual King Dinner, citing budget constraints. The university's Black Student Union expressed concern that the decision was connected to broader political pressures rather than finances alone. In response, students organized smaller community dinners to preserve the tradition. In Maine, St. Anthony of Padua Catholic Church canceled its MLK Day service, officially citing unforeseen circumstances. A member of the church's Social Justice Committee later said safety concerns played a role amid rumors of increased ICE activity in the area. Despite those disruptions, many events are proceeding as planned. In Memphis, Tennessee, the National Civil Rights Museum is holding its annual King Day celebration as usual. The museum, located at the former Lorraine Motel where King was assassinated in 1968, is offering free admission, a long-standing tradition. Museum President Russell Wigington said this milestone year is not only about honoring King's legacy, but also recognizing those who continue to advance his ideals today. He said the holiday remains a living reminder that King's work is unfinished. As Americans mark Martin Luther King Jr. Day this year, the divide over how to honor his legacy reflects broader national debates about race, equality, and democracy. For some, the holiday is a moment of reflection and service. For others, it has become a rallying point, a call to defend hard-won civil rights and to reclaim King's vision in a time of profound political change. For continuing coverage of how national events intersect with history, civil rights, and American democracy, stay with America Today.